Hi, and welcome to today's CLAYO tutorial. I'm Eve. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with me. I'm working on a ring at the moment and thought it would be a good opportunity to try out some of the surface creation tools in CLAYO. I've got a stone, a bit of an odd shape here, and I've got some curves that I've started working on already to get an idea of how I want my ring to look when it's done. What I usually do when I'm working on a ring or any piece of jewelry for that matter is I tend to work in halves. I'm just going to put those off for now. I work in halves or I work in quarters. It saves me time. It also creates better symmetry and my objects are then pretty perfect. And I just join it up in the end and then prepare it for print. So how I would usually go about building a side shank like this could be various different methods. When working with Rhino, you know that you can use quite a few different surface creation tools to create something, and all of them can give a pretty similar end result, but at the end of the day we actually tend to use only one or two for specific objects or areas of our objects because those are the best suited. Well, I'm looking at the moment today at which would be best suited for my ring, and I decided to start with a loft and see what it gives me, and in so doing learn a bit more about CLAYO's tools. With a loft, we always select the one curve after another in order of the loft, and have a look at what I've got here. I'll change the layer so that I can see a slightly different color. Turn our curves off and go back to our CLAYO menus option here on the right. There were our layers and properties menu is also to be found. And let's have a look at what we've got here. We've got a surface. It's quite a nice surface, but it's open on the one side. It's not quite what I was looking for. I need a closed tube. Now I could create it in half, mirror it and then merge the edges, but in this case I know that CLAYO's got a few other tools that might just best suit what I'm creating. So let's close this again and put on our curves, and the next thing I'm going to try is creating a surface from two curves. And let's start by using our inside curves. Don't get a fright, this is just the height. The height can be set to something a bit lower. I can even put it on 0.1. We want it to lie on the finger. And if we put smooth on now, we'll see that it's suiting the curve quite nicely actually. Maybe add a few more divisions. Let's put it on 12, and now we've got a very nice snug fit. Okay, so now my object doesn't have sides all around, so there's no capping necessary. If I had to put the symmetry on, I would land up with a flat tube like this. It's also in this case not desirable, what I'm looking for. And what we can, however, look at is variable height. If we bring our height up to 1, we can see here how variable height works with our object. When variable height is off, it tries to keep the same height all the way around. When variable height is on, it gives us height defined by the closeness of the two curves to one another. A bit more organic and natural. So let's say, okay, actually that would be called a comfy fit. We'll leave it that way. Okay, now we've got our surface. Now what I'd like to do is extend it to the back, and how best to do this, we've got two options. We can either offset our surface. You'll find these under the editing tools. We can either offset our surface and then add faces along the side and merge everything, or we can shell. And for this I'm going to look at the shell command. I'm going to choose my entire object, put shell on, and start working with the shell command. Now we see here, actually I could have done this starting from the outside. We also see here our flip, excuse me, but our normals are facing not all in the regular direction. Best way to correct this is to choose our entire object, use unify normals, and then we have it correct all the way around, or at least facing the same direction all the way around. Now you can see that my object was now being built towards the inside, using a positive value. That is because of the way in which my object was facing, or the direction my object was facing. If I had to undo this and go back to surface again and change the direction of my object, switch that off. And change the object's direction. So if we want to do a surface analysis, you see the object is now, the front side is facing towards the inside and the back side is facing towards the outside. Now we had to do an offset, or a shell actually, excuse me, or it's now moving in the direction we were actually looking for. Okay, great. So here we've got quite a funky tube happening, and right now our distance is 1.8. I'd actually like to make that 2, more or less the material thickness I'm going to need. Now there I've got my object. Great. Okay. You see it's also emulating the profiles that I've built down here already, and looking good and organic. We're going to have to build a channel in here for stones for when we bring it into Rhino Gold, but for now I'd just like to edit some of the edges, and for that I'm just going to need my translate tools and maybe crease a few edges here and there. We need to sit on top of our stone. Let's have a look at our stone. We'll also be using a Boolean difference right at the end to actually cut the seat of the stone out. Lock our layer, bring this down a bit onto our stone. Okay, let's make this a bit smaller. Don't need the center line now. Use the scale tool for that. Push it back again. Okay. We can broaden it a bit over here. Just sideways a bit. And maybe bring this edge in just a tad. We've got a ring size to keep in, but we also need to create a good stone seat, so let's do this. Let's also at this point turn our other curves on, because we're going to have a supporting gallery merge with our shank, and let's open that up a bit too. Bring that edge in. Alright. Now we're just gonna Okay, now we'll deal with the bottom of the shank in our towards the end of our tutorial, but let's just start working with the top for now. Okay, so there we've got a nice side view, and I want to build a supporting gallery. Let's have a look at what we've got here. In this case I would want to pipe it. Piping tool in Clayoo is very flexible and actually quite a lot of fun when you start using Clayoo. You have a lot of flexibility with your radius, your capping, or before you create your object. And in this case I actually would prefer to have an object that has a pretty square profile. The reason for this is I'm going to be setting stones along it, and we would actually need this kind of a build-up, not round. Maybe we can add in a little bit of roundness after we've built it. But okay, so make it 18. Good. Cap start, cap end. We're not going to do any creasing at this point. And say okay. And what I am going to crease, however, is, and here's the crease under the editing tools. That's the editing tools. Crease this loop, and to select my loop I will go into my selection tools and select loop edge. Crease that, and I will do the same for my bottom line. That then will create my nice smooth straight surface for my stones. Okay, whilst actually keeping a nice round inside. Okay, but now the object is still a little bit too close to my stone. Let's move it out a bit. Let's select the whole object. Close this up. Okay. Clayoo is still quite a new program, and there are here and there still a few things that are being worked on. So please don't get frustrated or disheartened if something doesn't work. Could be you're doing it just right, but may just be something that's still being improved on. Let's join these two surfaces together so that we've got one object here. And let's have a look at our options here. First of all, I'd like to